Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So glad each and every one of you are here. Today is a day of first. The first for me and the first for JDC's or Jay's Diecast Creations. He's having his first build off in honor of his girlfriend, and I'm building my first build off for him. So what car did we get? Well, let's just take a look and I'll show you. Yep, if you haven't figured it out by now, yes, we're doing the Ferrari 308. I told Jay in the comments that if I could find a Ferrari, because I didn't have one at the time, if I could find one, that I'd be more than glad to do one. And you know how it is. You let your big mouth overload what you're planning on doing sometimes. But Diecast Pirate seen that post, went on eBay, purchased one, and had it sent to my house. And that's what we have before us, a 308 GTB. And if you don't know this car, just take off the GTB. If you don't know what a Ferrari 308 is, all you have to do is watch one episode or even the trailer of Magnum PI and you will instantly know this car. This one is not in really bad shape. I mean, it's got some missing paint. I'm hoping once I get that paint off that there will be no shading issues or anything, because it doesn't look like there's pitting or anything. But you really don't know until you get it off. It's got a metal base, so that'll have to go in the stripper too. So before I put the base in the stripper, that means the wheels will have to come off. I've already got a set of wheels in mind for this. And what way am I going with this build? Well, like I said, Magnum PI is always a great way to go when you build one of these cars. So let's get this bad boy apart and we'll start the process. And of course, with any build, the first thing you need to do is take the car apart. So we are going to start with this one with a 1/16 bit. And the reason we're going that small is because the red lines back in the day, they have some really small posts. So first thing we got to do is center that post, and then we've got to drill it out. And there's only one post holding it together, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. But if you look at the depth of the car, you can tell this post isn't really deep, so don't go too far. Now again, first thing we want to do is find the center of the post. Now there's already a small indent in there, like somebody was going to do this before, it looks like, but this is an automatic punch, so all we have to do is get it centered and then push down. And it will punch itself. That's a little off center, but I believe I can work it as we go. So let's put a little dab of oil on there. Because that lubricates and keeps the bit from overheating. Move some of this stuff out of the way. I like to start with the smaller bit first and go down a little bit. And it's just personal preference, because I then like to come back and knock the head of the post off. Alright, looks like the 9/64 will be just about perfect. Yep, and that quick I've got the head of it knocked off. Oh yeah, there we go. Again, there's only one post, so you got to be real careful so you don't break the tip of your car off, because you got to pull it back as you pull it up. As you can see, the old post, the old style of ways of mounting the axles. So we'll try to spread that, but if we can't get it spread, we'll hit it with the die grinder, because these have to come off before we can dip it. Then we have the windshield. There's one scratch in it and some real fine scratches. I believe we can get most of that out, so I believe we're safe with that. And then the interior will have to be cleaned up. I don't know how in the world that happened, but if you look right there, you can see the shifter and it's bent over. I don't know how in the world that happened, because unless somebody stuck something in there as a kid. try to straighten it back up, and then I'll glue it back down best I can. Just make it look like it's going in the first or something. But this just needs to be hit with some soapy water, as you can see. No big deal. But now we get to drill this out so we can put some rivets in it and then go from there. Alright, got that drilled out. I'm going to leave it like that for now. I normally would go ahead and put a screw in it, but I'm not going to put a screw in it because I don't have a 172 screw. I'm going to have to try to go to the hardware store and see if they have any, which I doubt. But they did have 265, so I might be surprised. But I've got it drilled out. I went probably, I don't know, 2/3 of the way in. I'm going to stop with that until I get the screw. I'll get the screw before I paint it and double check the depth. But right now, just going to file that off, make it smooth so it goes back together good, and then we're going to put this in the stripper. Alright, we got the wheels off. I was trying not to mess them up. You know, you always try to save these things for old projects, but I ended up notching them. I ended up just so ever slightly hitting them with the cutoff wheel right there. So the wheels are no good, but I can still save these axles, and even though they're bent, I can still cut them in half and use them for other projects. So we'll put that in something, and you always just save bits and pieces because those are a lot stronger than the nail heads and stuff that you can, I mean pin heads and stuff that you can buy in the stores. So let's put that in there, put that in there. We'll get back to that later. Now we want to put this and get the process rolling. Like I said, this is a painted base, so we're going to be repainting it. I'll show you the color later. Might be the same, might not be the same, don't really know. But it's got to be stripped regardless, so we're going to drop that in there. And of course the paint has to come off this body, because even if it's going to stay this color, well, we can't hardly paint over that. We need a good starting surface. I don't have a printer to print off the 308 badges, so I can't put those back on there. I looked on eBay and different places for them, and I just can't find them anywhere. And I know I could get them custom made, but I've only got about a month to do this, so I want to get this ball rolling. So it's going to go in with the base, and we'll see that tomorrow. Bye bye, Ferrari. Alright, let's get this thing going. I've got that. Where's my brass? There it is. I shouldn't have to dip this one in CLR or Lime-A-Way because it's been painted its whole life, so all I have to do is just clear up, you know, the lines and stuff and get the casting material off there. That should shine up really good. This body, I'm going to have to do a little bit of filing right there. As you can see with my finger on there, it's really rough, so I want to clean that up a little bit. But we're gonna get the casting material off of this one too. You can see the stripper still in there, some of the grooves and everything. So that's why we always go over this stuff with steel wool and brass bristle brushes and stuff. So let's get this cleaned up. A lot of people ask why I don't use the wire wheel. To me, and this is just me personal preference, if I'm not in a rush, why would I want to? Because sometimes the brass bristle brush with its spinning motion and everything, actually as you touch it and everything on there, it puts tooling marks in it. You know, you can see the scratches. So then you have to come back and sand it anyway. So why do that if I don't have to? So let's just start with the base and see how it cleans up. Because you can see how just the bristle brush by itself leaves marks and stuff on there. So, you know, if you don't have to, there's no need in creating extra work for yourself. But this just gets all the dirt and stuff out of the crevices. It gets all the leftover stripper and paint and all that out of the cracks. So now that we have that pretty good, I'm not going to worry about the top because you'll never see that. I will knock it out of that corner, but that's pretty good for that. Now we're going to hit the body itself, see how that shines up. And you can see there's tooling marks and stuff already on here, but I think that, I don't know, we'll see how it turns out when I get it completely done. Alright, after a couple of minutes of doing that, we have it down to where we want to be able to look at it. And thank goodness that this car has no shading issues. If you remember the picture, when I first got this, and I'll try to remember to put it in here, it had a few issues with the paint. You know, the paint was missing, but luckily you could see that gray color to it. Well, typically with that gray color, that's the casting material, which is what all this is. They come off. So with that stated, there's no shading. There are some imperfections on the top and everything, and I'm going to try to sand those out, because the paint job that I'm going to put on this thing, I've never done this type of paint job before. I hope it comes out the way I think it will, because I really want it to have this paint job for Jay's Diecast Creations girl, because like I said, her name is Ferrari, and that's why he put out this call to everybody to do a Ferrari. So I want to sand out some of these imperfections as much as I can. I don't have the body filler or anything on hand to be able to do that, and with the paint job that I'm going to put on it anyway, it's not really necessary to have all that stuff. So let's get to filing this down. We're just going to do a light file because it's not anything major. I just want to knock that edge down. Oh yeah, that's looking 100% better there. Alright. I just do not like that top. I mean, it's not shaded, which is really good. That will make for a great paint job. But I just do not like those scratches and those little spots on the top. I'm not looking for perfection, but I think I can do better than that. So I've got this pack of micro finishing cloth abrasive pads or sanding pads from Hobby Lobby. We're going to start off with 3,200 and work our way up until, you know, I feel that sucks, man. I wish they'd bring back their 40% off coupon. And I missed that coupon. But anyhow, we're going to start with, like I said, the lowest one and work our way up. And we might not need anything past the lowest one. We'll see. But we're going to be wet sanding. We're not going to be dry sanding. I definitely won't be going to 12,000, so we'll put that back in there. 8,000, don't know. I'm assuming that's 6,000. We'll put that back in for now. 4,000. 3,600. We'll start out with 3,200. But it's real simple to do this. I mean, both sides are abrasive. All you do is you can take your fingers and put a little bit of water on the car, or you can actually dunk the car itself in there. And then you just sand away. It feels like you're not doing anything at all, to be honest, with this super fine grit 3,200. But if you look at it, I can already see that I am getting a lot of those flaws out. I'm just going to keep working on it, and then we'll try using some polish and the Dremel and see if I can get the rest of them out. You know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking to get a decent finish. I'm not looking for a mirror. Not on this one. Not with the paint that I have in mind. So, I'm just going to keep working with it. Run the full length of the panel whenever you sand anything. And we're going to keep working on this. Alright, so we're going to do just a little bit of detailing on the base, and then we're going to clear coat this. Because I want this base to stay this color. I was hoping that I could get it cleaned up a little bit more, but this was not a polished base or anything. So I couldn't really drop it in the lime away because there was no tarnish or anything because of your fingers. This was a painted base, but I think it'll be okay. It's not perfect, but the only thing that we're going to be doing is the tail lights. The inner tail lights are supposed to be red, and the outer tail lights are supposed to be amber with silver centers or white centers. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the red. Again, the inner ones are just red. And we're going to give that just a minute to dry while we get the amber ready. I wish testers would find a different way of sealing their paints because this sucks. Always having to do this. Now we're just going to get some of the amber and do the outers the same way. And that's all there is to painting the taillights on these things. Get some of that color in there. We're going to give it a few minutes to dry, and then we'll come back and hit it with the silver. But there we go, there's the tail lights done, and we're going to come back in a few minutes and hit the middle with the silver. Like I said, we're going to give it a minute or two to dry, because you don't want the colors to actually bleed into one another. You want it to be a nice, sharp, crisp paint job. I mean, I do have the body pretty much where I want it. There's a few scratches that I just can't get out, but once you go to polishing and sanding on these things, you have to be really careful, because if you're not, then you can actually burn through the zinc plating, and I'm not set up to do the zinc plating right now. But by looking at this base, you can tell by now that I am not going with a red paint job. Nope. I really wasn't planning on doing a red paint job to begin with. I put it in the video, kind of a teaser, which I had in the back of my mind. If the paint that I want to do doesn't work, then I will do a red paint job. But we're actually going to do a Spectraflame on this, or a Spectraflame type. It's going to be a homemade Spectraflame, and I've never done it before, so I hope it turns out good. There's one little scratch right there I wish I could get out, but outside of that, I think the body looks pretty dang good. Like I said, I'm not going for absolute perfection, because Spectraflame paint jobs bodies wasn't perfect from the factory to start with. So, you know, I wet sanded this, and then I hit it with the Dremel with the buffing wheel on it, used some metal polish, and got it to shine like this, because this is what it looks like after you take off the casting material, and that's what it looks like after you polish it and sand it. So it makes quite the difference. But there's the body. Now that the cat's out of the bag about the paint job and everything, that will be the next step after I finish the base. But right now we're going to hit the base, the tail lights, finish them up, and clear cut it. Now, I said I wasn't going to do any other detailing, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. I broke up the flat black, and it's just a extra little detail, you know. It's just something I was looking at, and I was like, well, it's not quite enough detail on the back of this car for my liking. But if you look at the exhaust, you can see the tips of it, all nice and polished and everything. And I think it would look better to have a little bit of carbon buildup in there, like if you, or depth, like if it was actually open. So I'm just going to take the flat black and just barely touch it. Wish there was a way I could do that 308 on there, but I think I'd mess that up if I tried it. I wonder if I could do it black and then just wipe off the 308. No, I'm not going to try it. I'm going to leave it just as is. I said I wasn't going to do any more, so I'm going to stop with that. Alright, I got my floor shine. I'm going to take my window that I've polished. As you can see, I done cleaned the interior really nice. That looks really good. And we're going to coat this window. But first I couldn't get all the yellow tint out of it. I didn't have any real fine sandpaper like 500 or 600 grit. All I've got is those 3200 and up sanding blocks. So they really wouldn't do anything to this. So I hit it with the Meguiar's polish with a buffing wheel. And it took 90% of the yellow out. So we're going to dip this. Got it all cleared. So we're going to go ahead and dunk the glass in. Pull it out. Let it drip for just a second. Shake off the excess as much as you can. Then you want to take the edge and just dab it on the paper towel so that it wicks off any excess that you might have. And it's amazing how that stuff does it, but it'll just wick right off. There you go, it's all coated. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to lay this down in here, cover it up, and let it dry for a day or two and come back. It won't take a day or two to dry, but that's just what we're going to do. So that takes care of the windshield. Now let's get the paint ready, because we got a process that we're going to have to do to get the paint to where we need it, and I've never done it before. So I'll meet you outside. Alright, so here's the process. Since I'm going to be mixing my own Spectraflame paint, we have to have the paint, number one, and then we have to have the color. So what you do is you take your favorite paint, and in this case I would use 2K clear, but I don't have the money or the time to go get it for this project. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball. I know I've got a couple weeks, but I've got so much going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my favorite spray paint, polyurethane, which is clear gloss. But we have to get it out of there. And what this process is called is decanning. So there's 3 ways to do it. One way is to let it sit for a couple days, poke a hole up toward the top, cut the top off, pour all the paint out of it. Second way is to spray it into your airbrush, because you know airbrush puts down a slicker, finer finish than a aerosol can does. And the third way is to spray this into a container and then edge your tint, because that's all Spectraflame is anyway, is a polyurethane tint. I mean, there's lots of clear coats out there. You've got enamels, and I have an enamel that I really like that I use a lot, which is like 1/3 of the cost of a good quality polyurethane. So, but because this is a special paint job and a car for somebody, you know, I want it to be right. So we're doing the polyurethane. I just went and picked that up, and we're going to mix our own. Because like I said, I don't have time for Spectraflame paint to come, because last time I ordered paint from the Redline shop, it took almost 2 months to get here. So here we go, we're going to get this out. Alright, so I only need enough for this bottle. This is probably about 1 ounce. So I'm going to spray it into this, and then I'm going to transfer it over to this, because it's just easier to get the paint and grip and everything with that. So all you got to do is shake it up really good. But in our case, we're just going to take the can, like I said, and we're just going to spray the crap out of it and catch the paint. That's really all there is to it. As you can see, you're not really getting that much liquid out. And you would think that this comes out yellow, but when you spray it and it dries, it comes out clear. And that's about all I need. We're going to set this over to the top, because you have to let this set for 5 or 6 hours for the propellant to get out of the paint. And then we'll add our color and we'll go from there. That's all there is to decanning it. Or decanning it. And that stuff's cold when it comes out too. And by the time we add our color and it evaporates just a little bit from letting it sit out here and get the propellant out of it, that'll actually go down some. But it's funny how it comes out yellow and it dries clear. Well, I put a clear coat on this, and I tell you, it made it kind of milky looking. I put a heavy clear coat on it. I think next time I'm going to try something different. Might just try waxing and clear coat. I didn't like the way that worked out. But anyhow, now we're going to work on the wheels. I've already got that notched out so that it will accept my axle tube, because of course the ones that I'm using aren't wide enough to go in there without having to make an axle tube. So I had to notch it, make sure it got down low, and I hope that's low enough, because I would hate to have to cut those tabs off. Man, I hope I don't have to. But anyhow, we're going to try it without it. But we got to make our notches. Some people will just take the axle and put glue on the end of it, stick it in the tube, and call it done. But what I have found is my luck. I always glue the freaking wheel to the axle tube so it always sticks, and then you end up messing up a good set of wheels. So what I like to do is I actually like to notch mine, and what I have started doing is notching it and taking it back out, putting it in the car. Then when I get ready to put the wheels, I will put glue in the groove that I have notched out. Then I slide my axle through, and then it hits the glue. Then I'll put another dot of glue on top of it, so it's glued in the tube and it's glued right there in my notch. But you never want to cut the axle tube, the notch in the axle tube, without having something in it, because inevitably you're going to end up cutting through, or you're going to go too far. Well, by taking something, and this is just a long head pin, you can buy these at Walmart, a couple hundred of them for like $1.50, you know. And then you just figure out how far in you want to go with the notch. And the best way to do that is to have the actual tires and wheels. Now I don't want to reveal the tires and wheels just yet, but you know, you just judge how far in you need to go, right? This one I can go all the way in like that, and let me check to make sure the other one doesn't push it back out. Okay, they are not hitting. So now what I can do is take me a marker and just mark, because now I can take it back out, right? And I can just mark about where the end of that's going to be. So right there. So anywhere from my fingernail over. So we'll put a notch there. Now we do the same thing on the other side. Now you want to put the head pin in there like I was telling you, so you don't go all the way through. I'm going to try this on low to see how it goes. We might have to speed it up just a little bit. But now you can see the divot that I have cut in there. And all you do is just touch it on there and work it back and forth until it goes through. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to put glue in the base of the notch. I'm going to put glue there, and I'm going to put glue there. Because, you know, this being brass, if you push down on it hard enough, it'll want to bow. So I'm going to try to lock it in on all three sides. So, wish me luck. Put a nice little bit down in the bottom. Nice little dab right there. And a nice little dab right there. Then we're going to take our axle tube, drop it down in the car. And we're going to push down and make sure it's seated all the way. Now we're going to do the fronts the same way. Alright, like I said, I'm going to put some in the axle tube to start with. Just a dab. Make sure it gets down in there. Then we're going to take the wheel. Insert it in. Make sure it's pushed all the way. And we'll put another dab on top of it. And now we have us a rolling chassis with some custom wheels. So now all we got to do is get this painted and clear coated, and we'll be done with this one. We can send it on its merry way. Because if you look, I cleaned this interior up real good. I painted the spokes on the steering wheel. I painted the gear shifter silver. I straightened it up and glued it. I painted it silver. Then I touched the top of it with white to represent a white shifter ball. And then I even went in. Let me find a pointer here. Where's a pointer when you need one? Here we go. Sorry about that. I even went in and hit the emergency brake handle and all the tops of the switches and stuff with Molotov chrome. So that's done. All that's left is to paint this and pray that it comes out the way I want it to. Of course, I got to degrease it again. Got my grubby biscuit grabber fingerprints all over it, but I just wanted to show you where we're all at. So let's get the paint mixed up. Yes, I need to show you how to do that. Let's get the paint mixed up. Remember me telling you that a lot of it would evaporate over the time for the propellant to come out of the paint and everything? Look at that. It's not quite half the way empty, but it is way down there. It's probably a third gone at least. Well, just over a third actually. But we left the top off of it. That's what you're supposed to do, because if you put the top on, eventually it'll build up so much pressure, and this being glass, it would have exploded. So I could have ended up with a big old mess. But the color that we're going to be doing this car in And everybody's been waiting for it, I know. Pink. Jay said that she likes, he gave a list of colors, gave a list of things that she likes and everything. One of those things being pretty. So who doesn't like a pretty Ferrari? But you've never seen one in pink. Well, hopefully this will be pink. This, when it dries clear. On white, it will have just an ever so slight tint compared to a crystal clear. So I'm really kind of bummed about using this. I didn't think it was going to be that yellow, but it is. But anyhow, we're going to work with it. If I have to, I got one more pink pen, and we'll get something different. But the way you do this is very, 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 very simple. All you do is take the inside of the pen out, right? Twist that off, and there is your paint, your tint. Now all you do is you take this, stick this in the tube, and blow through it. And there's the tint. And you stick that back on there so you don't have a big old mess. Stick that back in there and throw that away. Close that up, good and tight, and then mix up the color. Look at that. When that dries, it'll be pink. See? Look at that, it's already pink. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make your own Spectra Flame paint. After shaking it up, see, look at that, pink. So I'm going to leave the cap off of it since I've shaken it up, and I'm going to let it sit there for a few minutes, and we'll be done with that. I'm going to close it up, and tomorrow we will be painting. Alright, it's the day, and of course the wind's going to start picking up, yay! But we're going to push through it. Today is probably the most intimidating day for me of any build. Number one, it shows everything. I mean, this is the part that everybody's going to see. You know, sure, if they pick it up and flip it over, they'll see the base or look at the interior and stuff like that. But the body is the main thing that they're going to see. This is the first thing they're going to see and draw their attention to it. So, you know, it gets the most attention, so it's the most intimidating. Because now, all your work shows up, or whether you did good, whether you did bad, all that shows up. And during the paint process, there's so much that can go wrong. You know, runs, streaks, stuff you didn't see to begin with shows up, stuff like that. And we're doing a Spectra Flame paint. All you have is the body and a see-through paint. So anything that's not right on that body is going to show up. And I'm not scared of it. This is just my first time doing it, so we're going to do it together. And that's why I put so much detail in my videos, is so that somebody new to the hobby can see the trials and tribulations that we go through, what it takes, what you need to look for, all that good stuff. So I have my paint that I mixed up. As you saw, I added some more polyurethane because I knew that the color was going to be strong, because I put a whole thing to one of these vials, and I knew that'd be a little strong, so I diluted it a little bit more because it went down to right about there as it evaporated overnight with the propellant coming out of it. And then what you didn't see in another video that I was working on, I knocked this over, because you have to leave the cap loose so that the propellant can get out. So I left the cap loose, and I ended up knocking it over and got it all over my workstation. What a mess. But I only lost half of it, so then I had to add another half, so now it's even weaker, but I think we will still be okay. So I have my airbrush set up. I have a 0.5 tip in it. I could probably get away with a 0.3, but I just normally use a 0.5. I've got it set at 20 psi right now because this stuff is like water. It's really, really thin. So we don't need a lot of pressure throwing a lot of product out there, because that's just going to cause a run. So now all we got to do is get ready. I've degreased the car. I used a hair dryer on it to make sure I got all that moisture off. It's been sitting out here now for about 10 minutes, so I know it's not hot. So let's give this a whirl. And if you don't know what the color is going to be, there you go. Nice bright pink. Jay said that was one of his girl's favorite colors, and she likes stuff that's pretty, so I think a Ferrari would be very pretty in pink. So I'm gonna fill it up. That should be enough to do 2 cars, but I wanted extra paint just in case, because like I said, I've never done one of these Spectra Flames and I want to have enough. So slide that over out of the way, put our cap on it so it doesn't evaporate further, and let's go to it. Now what I'm going to do, in case you've never used airbrush before painting diecast, I'm going to use, especially the Spectra Flame, it's very important to put real thin coats on. I'm going to start with the underneath to get everything flowing, make sure everything's going right, make sure I got a feel for it, and then we'll put a light coat on the top, set it down, cover it up, let it set for 5 minutes, come back, put another coat on it. So let's get to it. Move this out of the way so I don't get paint all over it. And honestly, it doesn't look like you're putting anything on there, but you are. So that's why it's important to go light. You can see that it's tinting. The next coat will be where it starts to show up. So you can see it's tinted now. You don't have that high gloss finish. Make sure we get the whole thing coated. Like I said, we'll cover that up now, let it sit for 5 minutes, and we'll be back. And I just put this over it to keep the dust and pollen and stuff out of it.
5 minutes later.
Oh, it's been 5 minutes. Let's see how it looks. Like I said, this polyurethane has a gold tint to it, and when it dries clear, but you know, it still might throw a little tint to it. But as you can see, it's already starting to come out pink. Look at that. After it dries, look at that. It's no longer silver. And I'm looking now to see if there's anything that I need to fix, stop the process and fix, and then come back and do this. But no, everything looks good, so let's press on. Now we can put coats on heavier, because we have something for the paint to actually stick to, rather than wanting to run. She's starting to look pink, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that finish on there. Yes, sir. That's looking really good. So I don't have to let it sit 5 minutes now. And I see one speck on there. It looks like discolorization, but there's nothing to do about it now. So we're going to roll with it. But she's starting to look pink, isn't it? I think it's looking great. And Ferrari, don't you steal this idea from me. If you come up with an idea for a ladies only pink Ferrari, you owe me a lot of money. I'm putting that right now. You might have trademark on the car, but I've got trademark on you putting that color on that car. Now the only thing is how pink do we want to go? Because the more coats we put on there, the darker the color will get. So I think I'm going to put one more coat on there, and that might be it. It just might be. We'll see when we get there. So I'm trying to get it to blend. You can see it looks like there's a streak going right down that metal. Now they're hitting. Now that's darker than the front. No, it didn't. Looks like it matches the sides pretty good. Now we'll just give it a visual once over because I think that's as dark as I want it to go. Alright, get the airbrush all cleaned up. That's the only part about airbrushing I don't like, but hey, I knew that going in. Plus, it gives flawless results as long as your prep work's good. And I'm just going to show you, my prep work was not perfect, but that's, you know, I'm still learning too. I've only been doing anything like this for about, I don't know, I started collecting again on last of January, I think January 27th. And the first thing I painted was probably March, and that was with a rattle can. So I'm still learning, but let's look and see how this looks. Get all the stuff out of the way. I mean, look at that. Mirror shine, look at that reflection because I used a good polyurethane. So it's already, polyurethane, all that is a clear coat. So it's already got the paint and the clear coat on it. But we are not done with this just yet. I have a couple more things I got to do to it, but I need to let it set and dry for a couple days. I know tonight I could probably mess with it, but I'm not going to because I don't want to mess anything up. I mean, it's like it's sitting there wet. There's no orange peel, there's no nothing. That is why if you're going to do customs or restorations and charge people for them, I strongly recommend you looking into an airbrush. Yes, it's a pain, I understand that. Yes, it costs, but here's the thing. You can actually, if you're up over 1,000 subscribers, you can actually take that off as an expense. But it makes your taxes go up too. It makes your, because you didn't have to claim self-employment tax or pay self-employment tax. So with all these supplies, you can take off of your taxes. Do I? No, just because I don't want to pay $300 to get my taxes filled out each year. But some people do that anyway. So if you already do it, like a Schedule C, I think it's called, then by all means do this and add it on. Just more deductions. But we've got her done. I'm going to set her in there and let her cure. Today's Saturday, about 1 o'clock p.m. I'll give it to Sunday night, maybe Monday night. Do the finishing touches that I'm going to do to it. We'll clear coat it, and I may even run the clear coat through the brush. I don't know yet. I just love how the finish looks when you use a airbrush. But like I said, I got one, maybe two more things I want to do to it, and then it'll be on its way. So let's get everything put up. All right, we're in the home stretch now. I get this out in the water, you know what's next. But let me show what we got first. Look at this bad boy. The shine on that thing. Oh my goodness. I think it turned out wonderful. My first ever Spectre Flame job. My first ever homemade Spectre Flame job. But I've got one more detail I want to do to this. I could go with it as is, but I've got one more thing we're going to do to this. And it involves these. Yes sir, look at that. We're going to put these on that car. I don't know if I'm going to put just one on the hood or if I'm going to do it a little different. Let's take a look. Now since it's a Ferrari, I want to pay homage to Ferrari, and I'm thinking about putting the shield right there on the hood. But with that, I was thinking about cutting off the Ferrari and maybe putting it back here. Something like right there. Either that or take off both of them and put them in the lower doors. I think it'd be really cool right there on the doors just to have the Ferrari there. But the real Ferraris have Ferrari back here, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to separate the shield from the Ferrari. Shield up front, Ferrari on the back. So let's get to it. Paper, and then I trim it down fairly close. I don't try to get exact, but I do try to get close. Here we go. Perfect. And there we are, Ferrari and the shield. Like I said, I'm going to put the Ferrari right here. I think that'll look pretty good. And then the shield somewhere toward the middle of the hood. Somewhere around there. First thing I'm going to do is use the micro set and put just a little dab back here where we're going to put the decal. Then we're going to take this and dunk it in some room temperature water. Now typically on a matte finish you want to clear coat it first or matte paint it. That way it can have some slickness to move around on. There's still enough of that in the Q-tip to where I can just rub that on there and dunk the shield. Get it nice and wet. Typically between 5 to 10 seconds is all it takes. Should be close. Yep, that's it right there. It's looking pretty good, isn't it? Ferrari on the back. I still think it would have looked really cool with Ferrari there, but if I would have done that, I don't think it would have looked as good with the shield on there. So this kind of levels out and balances it out. So now that we have that done, we're going to take number 2, the micro saw, and we're going to put on these decals. And what this does, it makes that clear paper kind of disappear, almost like it melts it into the paint. And if I was going over any of these rough places, I could put it on there and kind of work it in over the decal, and it would make that decal conform to the shape of anything that I'm putting it on. But there's really no shape. All I'm doing is putting it on here because I want it to look like it was painted on rather than you seeing that clear paper. So that's all you got to do is just make sure the whole decal is coated, and then do the other one the same way. Now we let this set for a day or two, and then we come back in and we clear coat the whole car again. That locks it in. That'll never come off until the car is stripped. What do you think? Don't you think that looks pretty good on there? I do. Looks pretty dang straight to me too. Ferrari on the back, got the shield on the front. Nice shiny paint job. And I think that the wheels will go nicely with this paint job that I have chosen. I was going to paint the wheels the same color pink because the wheels are chrome, but I decided not to because I didn't want to be overly pink, you know what I'm saying? Because the whole car is bright pink, then we're offsetting it with some regular colors, so I wanted to bring that down, the walls if you will, to the base. So here we go. We're going to let it dry for a day or two, and then we'll come back and clear coat it. Well, just as a quick recap, this is the one that we started with. It's not in bad shape, you know, there's some missing paint and everything, but it's just been played with and loved. It hasn't been beaten, banged, there's not a lot of pitting, there's not a lot of anything that's really wrong with this original paint job and casting. It's just been loved, which is what these cars are meant to be. But I believe we could do better, so that's what we attempted to do. So now for the final reveal. As you can see, we changed it completely. We changed the paint job, went with the pink Spectra Flame. We changed out the wheels, put some premium wheels on it. We put the Ferrari decal and badge on there and put the Ferrari logo on the back. We cleaned everything up, polished the windshield, and did a little detail work to the base. We painted the tail lights, the brake lights, reverse lights. We painted the 308 license plate, and then I took my razor knife and went over the top of the 308, and that revealed it from the black. That made it stand out again. We did the exhaust, you know, we painted that, and it was just an overall very, very fun build. Like I said in the opening, this is my first one, my first Buildoff, and I would just like to thank Jay's Diecast Creation for first giving me the opportunity to build this car for his girlfriend. Secondly, for letting everybody get in on this, not just limiting it to a few people, and Don over at Diecast Pirate for actually purchasing this vehicle and having it sent to me so that I could be part of this Buildoff, because I didn't know if I was going to find a casting in time that I liked or thought that would work. So I hope Amanda really enjoys this car. It's a little different. And Ferrari, if you ever decide to go on a pink Ferrari, you owe me a lot of money. But again, thank you so very much for the opportunity to do this. Hope she enjoys it. Until next time, until next Buildoff, until next custom, we'll see you. Thanks for watching.